welcome though to everyone that's online to our first virtual meeting like this. I want to just say, as an employer here for NTN Drive Shaft, uh, United Way has been very successful with helping some of our employees overcome a lot of barriers, which is also important to the success of my company. We are one of the number one plants in NTN Drive Shaft worldwide. And again, I think part of it is due to some of the partnerships that we have throughout the community. But just being able to provide some of the resources to our employees, because we know a happy employee is a productive employee, and they also have things outside of work that impacts how they work for you. And part of today's discussion that we want to share with you are just some of those resources and tools that United Way of Madison County has available to be able to help your employees remove some of those barriers so that you can have a successful company as well. So today I'm going to introduce you to some very fine ladies that are part of the United Way company. And as you can see their lovely pictures there, there's the president of United Way, Nancy Vaughn. Karen Hemberger is vice president of Impact United Way of Madison County. And then one of my very closest friends and counterparts that helps me as I'm the chair of the strategic fundraising committee as well, Ms. Kim Williams, who is the VP of Resource Development for United Way of Madison County. So what we will be covering today, just on the topics, thank you, Kim, for indexing the next slide. Financial realities for many employees. Again, as we know, the huge impact that we have now added upon us with the COVID-19 has added to more financial difficulties, but we're going to discuss some of these things. Barriers to successful employment, United Way programs and potential impact for your employees. Some quick resource guides that you can use, the COVID-19 community supports that is available. Also opportunities to partner together on some other things that we're doing here in the community will be discussed today. During this time, if you have any questions, please use the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom to type in those questions, and then we will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So we'll leave some time there for us to answer any questions that you may have. With that being said, I'm going to introduce the president of United Way, Miss Nancy Vaughn.
Thank you, Tyrone. I really appreciate your leadership with your company and with United Way. We are going to start out by finding out a little bit about the people on the call. So we have a poll for you. If you could take a minute and just let us know what industries we have represented on the call today. Yeah, go ahead and share. Okay, so a little bit of a mix. Okay, so thank you very much. Whenever I talk to anybody, I always start out by addressing the question that in about 3 decades of working with United Way, the #1 question I get asked, what does United Way do? And the answer, the short answer is we fight for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community. That's what we do. That's why we exist. And there's a lot of detail in the how, but this is the what. So I want to make that clear right off front. We are focused particularly on the people who are working and struggling. And that's a lot of people, and that has been our focus for a number of years. People have to be able to earn enough to live, and in order to do that, they have to be healthy, they have to have education, they have to have skills. And so all of those things are the focus of our work. We're going to ask you a question now. Kim has a poll for you. What % of households struggle to afford their family's basic needs despite working? Give that your best guess. Okay, so interesting. So you have most guessed actually a little higher, but that could be skewed on what we've been going through recently. Our most recent data from the Alice report is 39%. However, this was pre-COVID. So let me explain the Alice report. Alice stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. A more common term would be working poor. But that number, 39%, since we have been doing Alice reports for our community, I think we started in 2012, and it's a 2-year report. And by the time we get it, it's about 2-year-old data. So this is 2018 data, 39%. And that was much improved over a number of years because we started the report out kind of on the heels of the recession. And we were in the middle 40s and struggling a lot. So this is the best report that we had seen in 2018. And guess what? It's history now. We've got a whole new set of circumstances to deal with. And so we're going to talk about how do we even measure that? And I think that's one of the things when I first saw the Alice report, I think it was 2011 when I was first introduced to the Alice report from the United Way of Northern New Jersey. It's really the first time that we had a way to talk about the things that we were seeing among our partner agencies, that people were working, and it seemed to be easy at the time to say, well, people should just get a job, but they had jobs and they still weren't getting by. And for decades, we've had this thing called the federal poverty level, which is the measure that the government uses for supports. And that was set up in the 40s and has been kind of unchanged on what it measures since then. So it really doesn't have a lot of meaning for people today. So the Alice report looks at 6 essential areas of the household budget. What are the things people really have to pay for? And those are childcare, housing, food, transportation, health, and technology. So the first, childcare and education, if you have children, you got to take care of them. We hope you take care of them. But kids are expensive. It costs money. And if you are a working parent, you have to pay for childcare. And that is typically the second most expensive budget item for households with children. The first budget item is typically housing. One of the things we've noticed, especially in the last couple of years, is the cost of housing is really becoming a burden for low-income families, for renters particularly, and just buying a house is a whole other hurdle. But that is becoming more expensive, and I think, as everyone knows, if you work in a urban center, you want to live close to that urban center, that housing is even more expensive than housing farther away. You move farther away, now you've just increased your transportation costs. And transportation is also necessary. Anybody living in Anderson knows that. Food is everybody's basic needs, and even though the cost of food may not have increased over time like some other things, if you're struggling for everything, the cost of food is an issue. And there's food, and there's cheap food, and there's healthy food, and those are typically not the same thing. So those things impact your workers. Health, access to health is a financial issue if you are non-employed, if you are part-time employed, or if you're with a small employer that does not or is not able to offer health insurance, your access to health care is severely limited. And even if you have insurance, that doesn't take care of all of the costs. And if you're, as an employer, you know what healthcare costs, because employers' costs for healthcare are huge. And even sharing that with the employees, it's just an expensive proposition. The last piece on here is technology. When we started doing the ALICE reports, this was not something that was measured in the budget. But the fact is, if you are a working person, having access to technology is not an option. If your child is in school, having access to technology is not an option. And the recent shutdown just really put a spotlight on this issue, because when the libraries closed, when the employment offices closed, when service places closed, and the only way to get access was online, this was a huge barrier for people. Even if they have a hotspot, they have to have the device, and that was an issue for everyone. So when we take all of these things, add up, excuse me, add up the costs. This is Madison County. So this is what it takes to survive for one person, for a household of 4. And then this year we did a senior, because senior budgets are a little different than budgets for younger people. And we also know that seniors are becoming more stressed. So to give an example, typical average cashier salary, $9.68 an hour. That would be $19,000 a year. Survival budget, one person, a little over $21,000 a year. So we already have a gap with just one person. If you add a family onto that, the gap becomes huge. So this is how we kind of look at what is the baseline. How do we look at support for people? How do we help people get to where they can help themselves? Oh, okay. How is that going to work? So that all of that, like I said, was pre-COVID. So now we're going to look at the impact of COVID. It's impacted everybody. We all know that, but it has not impacted everyone equally. ALICE workers, families, and seniors are going to be impacted in a lot of different ways. This crisis has really exposed vulnerabilities for people who were struggling anyway. And many ALICE workers are not in jobs that can telecommute. And, you know, I think there's been a lot of discussion about that in the media. But it is a reality that we have to figure out how to deal with. So ALICE workers, if they're not laid off, if their place of employment has not closed, many have reduced hours, reduced wages. Many are still having to go to work. They may not have sick pay options. They may have to go to work, and we don't want sick people in the workplace, but now it becomes an economic trade-off. Childcare closures have had a huge impact on people who have to go to work, and that tends to be ALICE families. And school closures obviously have had a negative impact on ALICE families. So those are really recent, excuse me, and I apologize for my voice. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to get closer to this, and just let me know in the chat box if you cannot hear, and I'll try to stop being raspy. Okay. So barriers to successful employment, these are barriers all the time. These are things that we've talked about for years and years and years. Transportation, childcare, substandard housing, health issues, substance abuse, and soft skills. And soft skills, you know, just a wraparound of people who really need some help and support in planning, decision making, and just dealing with life. So those are all things that we recognize, that we have heard from employers, and that we know people need help with, and to make them better employees. We know we need to help people with this. So we have another poll for you, for your business. What do you see? What is the biggest employee issue that you see? And you can check more than one. I'm seeing another. If there's something else you want to type in the chat box, go ahead and type it in. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of personal financial stability, just general finances, childcare, housing, soft skills. Yeah. So, and then if there's anything else, what are we missing? And anything that you're seeing, we really want to know as we work with people. We need to know what is out there and what we need. So feel free to type that in, and we'll have some more time for conversation later. So next, you're going to quit listening to Nancy's raspy voice. We're going to take a second here and shift over and let Karen Hemberger talk about some of the ways that we are working with individuals and employees. Okay, so interesting comment. Employees not feeling like they're being able to be heard. You know, we do a lot of community conversations and people don't feel empowered. And I think a lot of times people don't feel empowered because they don't have support systems, and or they don't even know how to be heard. So that's part of when we deal with help people, it has to be in relationship and supportive, and that's kind of the basis for what we do. So thank you for that comment. I'm going to turn this over to Karen and let her take the next piece. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking your time out of your day to listen to what we're trying to do to help the community. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we are doing, and much of it is specific to our Thrive Network. But these are some opportunities that we have for employees. So what we know is that based on the things that you're seeing in the workplace, and especially with personal financial instability, individuals and your employees are dealing with things outside of the workplace that are affecting everything that's going on in the workplace. And what we know from talking with from some of our partners, our other United Way partners, around the United States, that if we can address personal financial stability, we can help employees be present in the workplace, so improve attendance, increase their productivity, strengthen retention rates so that there's not so much turnover, which it is affecting the bottom line, obviously. Employee satisfaction, more time for management to be able to focus on the business at hand, rather than dealing with employees who are just not there, whether it's physically or just mentally. They're worried about other things going on at home. And then overall, a stronger and more stable workforce. So our Thrive Network, it offers personal coaches who help folks with income supports, which is getting all of those benefits that they may be eligible for, making sure that they're claiming or they're filing their income taxes so that they can get the return. To work with them on finances, so budgeting, credit building and credit repair, connecting to things like IDA accounts. Okay, yeah, this might be a better, thank you. So yeah, for financial, working on, saving money so that for a rainy day or for a pandemic. What we are finding, especially now with COVID, is that while employees who have been laid off are eligible for unemployment, there's been a backlog in unemployment. And so they don't have the ability, because they don't have savings to get them over a hump until money can start flowing again. So we are working with folks around just basic budgeting and figuring out how they can set aside some money for an emergency. Hopefully not an emergency like this ever again, but should it happen. We also have employment coaches, and employment coaches work on things like resume building and helping to interview. And I know that our coaches have just had conversations with folks walking through the door on how you present yourself when you actually show up for a job interview. So they're kind of trying to work on the soft skills that, a lot of people may be lacking. So, so all three of our coaches work together, all three types of our coaches work together. And the unique thing about this is that it's much more of a relationship than it is a transaction. So while our income supports coach, for example, is connecting people to the resources that they may need just to make ends meet, they're also there to listen to what else is going on in that family, and to try to figure out if they come in and say, you know what, I just need childcare. The income supports coach will sit down and definitely try to hook them up with childcare, but also try to find out what else is going on. And a lot of times it's so much bigger than just the one issue that individuals think, and we're able to connect them with much bigger things. So as a part of our Thrive coaching, we also know that our employees or our participants, Thrive participants, have other needs and interests in things that our coaches really aren't the experts in. So transportation being a huge issue, we've been able to partner with Tom Wood Honda to do a car maintenance and car buying workshop for our Thrive participants where they can go in and learn all about what you need to know when you're buying a car, and then why it's important to maintain that car. So they show them things like how to tell if your tire tread is getting to be an issue and when you need new tires, or how to check your oil. They're not going to show you how to change your oil because apparently cars now, you can't really do that on your own. You need some special fancy tools, but they'll teach them all about the maintenance, things that they can check on their own, and talk about the importance of that. We've also done some workshops on insurance because so many of our Thrive participants don't understand that renter's insurance is, first of all, pretty inexpensive, and second of all, really important. And so a lot of them don't have renter's insurance. So we try to talk to them about that, try to talk to them about all the things that impact car insurance. And so those are a couple of things that have been really, really fun to be able to provide. And then we also do workshops around how to fix your credit score. If you want to buy a home, what will that take? Renters' rights. We talk about basic budgeting, and then we get into some workshops around debt and how to pay off debt and what you should be paying off first if you've got a lot of stuff on, if you've got a lot of bad debt. So we try to offer a lot of group workshops in addition to the one-on-one work that our coaches are doing with all of our Thrive participants. And so we're really excited that we, just before the pandemic, we were able to start our Thrive at Work launch. And that one, we actually have a coach who is located at a couple of our employers. One of them is Community Hospital, and then one of them is at NTN. And so our Thrive coach actually has regular hours on site, or she will when you will get back to work. But we'll be able to do on-site income supports and hooking employees up with some stuff that maybe they don't know that they're eligible for, or that they just don't have any idea how to get. Then she does some on-site financial workshops, much like some of the workshops that we're doing for our Thrive participants out in the community. We are going to be offering them at the workplace. I know that we were doing a tax lab at some of the workplaces prior to all of the stay-at-home orders. We offer with the local credit union a Thrive at Work loan program. So employees who have some financial need, some larger financial need, can get up to $1,000 within a 24-hour turnaround time. That loan can then be payroll deducted and paid back through their paycheck, so that the risk of defaulting on that loan is really low. At the same time that they're paying back the loan, they are also building credit, which for a lot of our folks is a huge issue. And then in addition to just the smaller personal loan to help with some unforeseen need, we also are really excited that we have now a Ways to Work car loan program. And that one, we are able to offset some of the risk on a car loan to help some of our Thrive participants who do not have good enough credit to be able to go out and get a car loan at a reasonable interest rate. They can now, through this car loan program, be able to get a car with a loan with a fairly reasonable rate. So we're really excited to try to start addressing some of these issues that we know people have that just keep them from being financially stable. So I think Kim has sent out some of the documents that you're seeing on your screen right now. The community supports for employees impacted by COVID is a front to back flyer. And I know that that's been emailed out to a lot of people. That document actually has all of our coaches' information on it and a direct line to reach them. And I know that we in our office have been using their numbers quite frequently. And then our quick resource guide. So with that, I'm going to hand everything over to Kim now. And feel free if you guys have any questions for me to type them in.
Thank you, Karen. If anyone didn't receive these supports, the flyer that you see on the screen or the quick resource guide, I'm happy to send them out after the meeting. I know for our HR departments that I work with, these types of documents can be a really big help to be able to connect employees to resources when they're struggling. So, you know, that's one of the things we're here for. So if that's something that you want me to send your way and you haven't received it, if you'll just let me know in the chat box to make sure that I send that out to you, I will be happy to do that. Okay, so I am going to have us do another poll, kind of a little bit more specific about COVID, because I'm going to talk a little bit about a few things that we've got going on that's specific to COVID support that are going to be out in the community. But I do want to, sorry, that was the last poll. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys in terms of what are you seeing as the most pressing needs for your employees if they've been impacted by COVID? And you can choose multiple on these as well. Okay. Okay, I'm going to give it a minute just because I think we've got people answering a lot of these. Wow.
Kim,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to answer on the poll.
Are you saying you don't see the poll, Sally?
It says poll number 4, and then there's nothing to check or any, I mean, it's just the screen that has the, what are the most pressing needs?
I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was
well-
able to answer the questions.
Okay.
It popped up on my screen.
Okay. Well, I'm going to end this. I think we've got, and share them so we can see them. So
There you go.
it seems like, you know, the big issues for you guys, and these are great things for us to know because as we're continuing to put supports together, this really helps us understand. So it looks like meeting basic needs is definitely one alongside childcare. So those are, thank you for sharing that information with us. And it's good for us to be able to see that. Okay, hold on one sec. Okay, so now I am going to, we've got some additional supports coming specifically into the community related to COVID in the coming weeks. And I want to share a little bit about those so that as you guys continue forward in the months and weeks ahead, you'll know where you can potentially reach out for some help for your employees. So United Way received an $800,000 grant from the Indiana United Ways, and that was funded by the Lilly Endowment. And it was there to specifically help us respond to those needs that were exposed through COVID. And so the goal was really to identify what are the most pressing needs and then provide support to our local nonprofits so that they could help people in turn with those things. So that $800,000 is going to be put out into the community in 3 different phases. And the first is a rapid response funding that's going to actually be out starting around June 15th. I can't tell you specifically where that's going to be yet because all the applications are due today. However, I can tell you that a lot of the needs are going to be focused on utility assistance, affordable housing, and food at this point. I can certainly share with you all again, if you let me know in the chat box that you want a list of those things, where that funding will be available. You know, our local nonprofits are, they're stretched pretty thin right now. And so this is really designed to help give them some funding to make that happen. So as you have employees that are struggling in the coming weeks and months, know that there is going to be some additional supports available that you guys will be able to connect them through. And so I can share those with you as they come out. So I wanted to let you know that. The other thing is that we have 2 additional phases that are going to be coming out in July and later. And that's going to kind of be some additional support for our local nonprofits. And it's going to be both for services focused on affordable housing, utility supports, and transportation as well. And it's also going to be there to help build up our local nonprofits, those that are on the front lines, helping all of these individuals and families that are struggling right now. So if you, again, provide me you make sure I have your contact information, and I will let you know where those things are as they come out. But absolutely the best first step for any of these things is, if you've got an employee that's struggling, is to connect them to one of the coaches in the Thrive Network. The coaches are going to be completely up to speed on where all of the funding is available, and they're going to be able to connect individuals to where the best supports will be. And they're also going to get that long-term support from the coach to help them kind of think through all of these things that they need to do to kind of recover as individuals, as a family, and move forward. So really, you can right now, if you've got employees that need that help, connect them to a coach, and then as these supports come out, they're going to be able to connect them to those as well. Okay. Okay, one final slide for me, and then we'll be kind of wrapping things up. But there are some additional ways that United Way and all of you on this call as businesses can partner together. And really, it's to the benefit of everyone. Advocacy is a big thing that we do for United Way. It's one of our 3, we give, advocate, and volunteer. That's what we encourage people to do. Because we are a national organization, we do advocate on both the state and federal level for key issues that really impact the families throughout the community. And so affordable housing is one of those things that we're going to be advocating for, and making sure that families that are struggling to have stable, safe housing have the supports they need there. We have for several years been advocating on the front of SNAP. If you don't know what SNAP is, that's basically the food stamp program. There are sometimes some years where there's legislation out there to make that a little bit more difficult to get. And so we always advocate to not make it that way, because we know that our working families and many families across the community need that support. Predatory lending is also a key element that we advocate on. We don't want individuals to get into situations where they are borrowing money at a rate that they will never pay back, and just digging a big hole for their future. Another thing that you can do that we can partner together on is, if you have open positions at your organization, we can share those with our employment coaches and potentially match up individuals in the community that are looking for employment with open positions that you may have. So that's something that you can share with us at United Way, and we can forward that out to all of our employment coaches. Another big thing I would recommend after listening to today's conversation, if you want to have a one-on-one discussion about, okay, let's talk about how United Way and my specific business can work together. How can we work together to help employees? Reach out to us and we can set up a time to just talk through those options one by one and see what might work best for your workplace. And then kind of as we've been alluding to throughout this entire call, if you want, I very routinely will send out resources to HR and workplaces that we partner with as we have new resources that open up to make sure that they can make those available to their employees. So if you want to be on my distribution list for sharing that, I would be glad to add that to and share it with you as well. So these are all different ways that we can work together alongside connecting people to thrive and potential for thrive at work and all of those types of things. I'm going to end with one last quick poll and then we can kind of open things up for some questions. So this last poll, I just want to kind of hear from you guys what you might be interested in terms of after today's presentation. Sally, are you seeing this one?
I am, Kim.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to wrap this one up and just, I don't think we need to share that one specifically. Okay, so that is basically the presentation that we wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to kind of unmute everybody at the moment. That way, if you have questions, you can feel free to ask them. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for any of us or anything that we could clarify if we haven't been able to do that for you?